that. A very good morning, everyone. And I was kind of very inspired by you, Celise, and it's going to be a very difficult task to follow that, but I'm going to try and give it a best shot. But let me begin by saying a big thank you to having me here today at the very, very first job fair for our LGBTQ community. We have a stall outside. I'm excited to be able to go there right after this to see what kind of talent we can attract and bring on board to Accenture. As I was thinking about what I'm going to talk about today, I was reminded of a story I read as a child growing up. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself before I share with you the story. And I'm going to access my notes now and then, so apologies for that. I grew up in the city of Kolkata, which those of you who are not familiar with Kolkata, it's a very, very vibrant city which has always challenged a lot of assumptions, a lot of mental models. I did my graduation in a college called Presidency University, which has always been one of those revolutionary colleges. And I'm very proud to share that a couple of years ago, they had their very first on-campus LGBTQI film festival as well. But my own microcosm, as I was growing up, was really my sister, my eldest sister, my two parents, and a binary world with strong mental models that passed on from my parents. And the only, probably the limited understanding of diversity that my parents had was limited to being Tamilians growing up in a predominantly Bengali community. And for my mother, perhaps being one of, 7 children growing up in an lower economic strata background, being deprived of the opportunity to pursue a higher education because the limited funds went to the brothers. But above all, both my parents were deeply religious as well. And if there was one value that they always kind of reinforced for me was that all children of God are equal. So you've got to treat people with respect. You've got to relate with people no matter where they're from, who they are, they're all equal. And that's kind of the value they've instilled in me right from a very early stage. And they gave me this book to read, which is called the Ramayana. And for those of you who are not from India, the Ramayana is one of the 2 biggest epics. And the story I was reminded of as I was preparing for this session today is as follows. The lead character in this epic is Prince Rama, who's the crowned prince about to get crowned as a king. The day before he gets crowned, he's exiled and sent to the forest. He's also very, very loved by all his people. So as he and his wife proceed towards the forest, all of the citizens are following him and his wife and his brother all the way to the forest. As Rama reaches the edge of the forest, he kind of turns around and tells his people, "My dearest men and women, wipe your tears and go back home. I don't want you to follow me." And so they did. They went back home. But for 14 years, there was a group of people who waited for Rama at the outskirts of the forest, waiting for him to return, because they were neither men nor women. And Rama had not told them to go back. And the story it kind of reminded me of, it took us, even in a digitally connected world where there's enormous opportunity for move forward socially, economically, culturally, people have moved forward. For our LGBTQI members, it's taken forever for our nation to be inclusive, to be welcoming, and to make the changes that we have made as of last October. So that's why it kind of gave me an opportunity kind of to pause and reflect, saying, going forward, how do we create opportunities in an environment that enables people to feel safe in the workplace, to feel loved, to be respected for who they are, to bring their authentic selves to work? How do we do that? And this is a great opportunity for us to pause and reflect on that. I've been fortunate for a little over a decade and a half to be working for an organization like Accenture, which is truly people-centric, and it's empowered me, it has supported me as I have been supportive of people bringing their authentic selves, some of my colleagues, some of my friends who are with us at the workplace, to bring their authentic selves, to feel truly appreciated and welcome. And it's probably made it easier for me to uncondition myself as I've become an LGBT ally over the last couple of years, to kind of reimagine a world where equality is a given. It's non-negotiable. So let me begin by sharing a few thoughts in terms of our commitment in Accenture towards diversity and why is that important for us at Accenture. I mean, it's a very well documented fact that in today's highly competitive business environment, every organization needs to innovate and needs to innovate at speed. Global GDP, and I'm going to read this, global GDP can increase by up to $8 trillion US by 2028 if an innovation mindset in all countries was raised by 10%. Just think about that. If we can increase the innovation mindset by 10% in every country, GDP can increase by about 8 trillion. Why is that important? At Accenture, we have an unwavering belief that it's really our diversity and our inclusive workplace that makes us truly innovative and smarter. It helps foster creativity, it drives innovation, it guides our business strategies. In one word, equality equals to innovation. And we recently released, earlier this year in 2019, our Getting to Equal research. So let me give you just 3 facts from that research. Number 1, our research highlights that a culture of equality is a powerful multiplier of innovation and growth for the LGBTI community. The key word there being a culture of equality. That's fact number 1. The second, a feeling of belongingness and productivity for the LGBTI community improves when there is equality in the workplace. And 3, members of our LGBTI community are 7 times more likely to be willing and able to innovate in a more equal culture than in a less equal culture. So authenticity, the ability for each one of us to be ourselves, to be talking about who we are at work and outside, and to feel respected as an individual really helps each person feel empowered to contribute, feel inspired, feel respected, and truly be confident to drive an innovative organization and kind of drive transformation in our clients as well. So all of our work really indicates how getting to equal is not just the right thing to do, but it's really a business imperative for organizations like ourselves. But let's pause for a minute. Organizations may have fulfilled their numbers from a diversity perspective, but are they truly building a culture of equality for their workforce? For our culture of equality, our research tells us there are 3 pillars that are critical. 3. The very first one is bold leadership. We need, as leaders, to make the commitment at the top and enable and strive to create a culture for our people that they can actually really thrive and be themselves and bring their best to work every day. As each one of you in your respective organization, I ask each of you to question, have you called out diversity, equal pay, advancement goals for your people? Do you track that on a regular basis? For example, at Accenture, we made a commitment, a public commitment globally to be a gender balanced workforce by 2025, as an example of a commitment. A more simpler, looks simpler perhaps, a more simpler action could be, like we did in Accenture, was to allow our people to use their desired name versus their given name as the official employee ID. Imagine the difference that makes to a person who feels that, I don't have to go with my given identity, I can choose my identity for myself at the workplace. So that's number one, bold leadership. The second critical one is an empowered environment. And what do I mean by that? An empowered environment has three elements to it. Number one, every individual is respected and their uniqueness is celebrated. Two, every individual is empowered with relevant skills, with relevant training, anytime, anywhere. Three, there's greater flexibility and a commitment to work-life balance. Those are the three elements of an empowering environment. And in our research, these three elements have the highest potential to increase the innovation mindset by about 70%. So it's a very, very critical element of building a culture of equality. The third key pillar is great to have leadership commitment. It's great to have an enabling environment, but how do you bring this to life for people to really experience that there are no differences, there are no barriers? You need to have a comprehensive set of actions. What does that mean? Let me give you a few examples. You need to have policies and programs that make people from our LGBTQI feel that, yes, we're putting our money where our mouth is. We have at Accenture, for example, all-gender washrooms. And you might be wondering, most people don't, most of the people I'm speaking to say, what's a big deal? It is a big deal. It's a huge deal for a lot of our people in our LGBTQI community, because having an all-gender washroom, we heard was a big, big success for our people. They were really, really appreciative of that. Secondly, our medical insurance policies cover partners of our LGBTQI community. We also provide insurance for people to go through sex reassignment surgery. We have internship. For the first time this year, we introduced an inclusive internship program for transgenders and persons with disability to come in, gain some experience, build some skills, network with other people who could potentially, they could lean in on and leverage for their career as they continue to grow. But above all, and I think Celeste mentioned this, we have an LGBT ally program that's probably one of the first few who started this, but it's really a benchmark for most other organizations. We have, and I don't know how familiar you are about Accenture's headcount in India. We're about 180,000 people here in Accenture, India, and we have 73,000 allies signed up as allies. We also continue doing a lot of awareness sessions, sensitization sessions, and that's very important to create that whole empowering environment I was talking to you about. We have what we call the hues of the rainbow, and one of my colleagues who's here with you, who's going to speak to you later today, was probably one of the first persons to speak and share his story in that forum. It's a safe forum, and what that has done is actually encourage people to feel supported, to come out themselves, and reach out and talk about their stories as well. That, among other things, along with the allies, is a huge enabling for our people at Accenture. The other critical benefit of having a focus on LGBTQI is not just for the organization, but to the community, to the society, and to countries in overall. Accenture is part of Open for Business, which is a coalition of about 21 plus organizations worldwide that have come together to take a stand on LGBTQI and inclusion. And the study they released, I think this was 2018, clearly calls out the economic case, how that is growing stronger for LGBTQI and inclusion. For me, what was interesting was three things they called out about cities that are more LGBTQI and inclusive. The research shows that the evidence indicates concentration of talented individuals, quality of living, and innovation. All these things. It's quality of talent. So if you're looking to hire talent, quality of living for people, and innovation as a culture, all three things are all seen higher in cities that are seen as LGBTQI inclusive. Imagine that. These cities are seen as more globally integrated, and therefore businesses grow in this city, creating more opportunities and really create a culture in the city that is seen as tolerant and dynamic and globally integrated to do business. So in closing, I kind of leave you with three messages. Discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity is not just a violation of universal basic human rights, but it's also adversely impactful on the long-term economic progress of not just individuals and organizations, but cities, but societies, and the nation as a whole. A 2017 United Nations AIDS study says the collective cost of LGBTI discrimination is close to $100 billion per year. That's the cost of not being inclusive of people just because of who they are. Businesses like organizations need to be the ones to kind of step up and create that environment. Leaders in the room here and outside need to take the stand top down, provide the steer and guidance to create a workplace of equality where people can bring their authentic selves, feel respected and thrive, and contribute, innovate, and make impacts for businesses and their clients globally. So this is not just a good thing to do, a right thing to do. That's important. But for organizations, it's also important kind of to drive their business growth. So if any of you is having conversations with your leaders and they're asking you, why is this even an important agenda? Take some of these facts back with you and share it with them. If they need data, like a lot of the leaders I've worked with always ask me for data behind anything that I put forward to them. Use some of this data, can challenge some of their thinking and assumptions around this. This is a business imperative. This is a national imperative. This is an imperative for all of us to participate in. And this forum like this, it's a great opportunity for us to kind of connect and understand what's going on in every organization so that we can share some of our thoughts. And as an LGBT ally, I'd really request each one of you to raise your hands and contribute towards creating a workplace and a society that's much more equal, much more respectful, and much more accepting of who we are as people. Thank you very much for having me today.